So the problem, I think, with psychotherapy discussion, of course, it's easy with adult men. So you, again, for the record, I cured the quote-unquote the condition to the union rep, Stephen Booth. My patenting technique nobody's ever thought of before is pull on a lap pull-down machine, ingest cannabis and listen to lateralis, because you end up very large, assertive and clever. So the fact that you have an embarrassing illicit sounding neurological condition means nothing, because people will respect you regardless, especially if you sort of get over the generally dreadful history of the clinical pathway and just sort of move on and laugh at all the idiots who were overlooking these kinds of minds and doing damage to themselves in a place in a sense as a result. The conversation around children is more difficult, because you've got to tell them about the world from the building blocks up, haven't you? You start as a baby by crawling around, and at some stage in life you start paying very close attention to what's on the pavement. But you tell them from the start that stoicism is quite a good way to live your life. So if you view yourself as sort of a slave in your Panopticon when you're a child, you can't really do much anyway. You have no real power, but you'll still be happy anyway. So if you can't really control much, just go play. You're probably going to be fed anyway, it's not too bad, and you get let out occasionally, and you can think as much as you like. You don't really have many responsibilities, so if you can be a bit cheeky to the warden, they probably won't be too bad. It's not that bad really. But you teach them stoicism at a young age, so they can move on to the more will-based stuff as they get older. So logically, you'd have to be quite old to understand Arthur Schopenhauer's thought. H is quite risque at the end of will of representation, because it starts with particle physics. So particle physics keeps Junior occupied, and at the end, by the time he's read through the book, he knows how to navigate life with a computer. So again, it's a really easy sort of education pathway if you want to get outside the state and do it autodidactically, but you have to have a sort of Christianised organic culture that did the wise king thing in terms of regulating human affairs, but also euphemistically because we're on the street. But the psychotherapeutic approach starts young, as you would think, and it's grounded in philosophy rather than medicalisation. If you can put the medical discourse away in certain respects, so I think it comes in terms of medication itself, it comes in terms of psychotherapeutic practice, the non-pellucid, non-CSJ kind, the bit where you get to be mentally liberated, not caged by some activist telling you what to do, but the actual stuff that actually works. So I'm sure the doctors are going to be in business for a long time, so curing the human condition, I thought, is going to be a full-time job if you think about it logically. But for the younger generation, you can help them out a bit by leaving artifacts from the past. So when you've passed on, there's something that's left behind, again, in something better than a nuclear bunker. There was the concern over nuclear waste. Of course, the half-life from the stuff that comes off nuclear power plants is going to be around for longer than a human lifetime. It won't decay in our lifetimes, so it's seriously hazardous waste that you're leaving behind as somebody else's problem. So we've got to deal with it some way. So they're burying it in underground vaults with hieroglyphics that in every kind of human or alien language could say, don't come here, really dangerous, just go, so people in future generations are safe effectively. So if you think you're pumping that kind of stuff into those kind of bunkers that are set up electronically, that's quite kind of fun, isn't it? The naughty boys and girls living in the Panopticon can have fun, can't they? And there's nothing anyone can do to stop them. So the reason I think Lindsay was right is because of the democratisation of the information flows. Anybody with a chimp with a microphone and a pipe can pump it through Edinburgh to anywhere on the planet, interface that with will, drones and kinetic missiles. You've got an asymmetric warfare force that can take cities. So you've got to navigate that in the current sort of postmodernist battle space with the Americans being the major power that grabbed the Arctic, that kind of stuff, with Niall Ferguson making the point that whoever controls the Arctic controls the Northern Hemisphere, therefore controls the power, therefore controls space. these discussions may take a more significance for the kind of childlike mind who is disinhibited and thinks about space as an exciting place to think about when the Rocket Man is doing feats the British currently can't for some reason. I can't think why, but maybe that would be that maybe still we've got the kind of brains that need to be preserved, because we could certainly contribute to that kind of project. I'm sure once the next generation is unburdened by the lower order hierarchy of need stuff as we go into pursuit of stuff that is above tribal concerns, shall we say. So a bit of ironing out and a bit of sensible post-war shake-up. I'm sure these things can be done amicably across the international community, but the days of asymmetric warfare are now over. Given the nature of the battle space, if you've got a sophisticated opponent, you just think about it, if you aren't nimbus in guerrilla warfare terms, things are still going to come back ultimately to ordnance, territory, and brain versus brain. And again, if you want to do Battle of Britain versus the Celts, good luck. The tacticians look at the battlefield. We've got plots either side, so Britain and Poland are holding each other up, I think, at the moment. As long as that kind of bulwark holds in Europe, I don't think the Americans will ethically pull out. They couldn't. So we've got a defence, but we haven't got a defence internally because of the information warfare tactics hitting us from the west. So it's Crenshawism hit from the west, the bioweapon hit us from the east, and the two have combined into a particularly nasty viral infection that was trying to sort of shake off a bit. There was a bit of a long-term effect after the 2020 unpleasantness. A lot of the cyberpunk degenerates are convalescing in Birmingham as we speak. It is sort of, actually think about it, it's a great one, the cultural reference to the Final Fantasy VII guys who sort of go off towards Genova or something. I can't quite remember, but the cult is sort of they head towards the equity. And of course, because they head towards the equity, you've got a fire pit. So surround the place with artillery, make the artillery commander give me an ethical command, and I'll pull the trigger every day. Okay, son. Well, I love the smell of the mandible dragger in the morning. Bang! And we'll wipe her out. If it's just only left, the buildings are cleared out. That awful ugly architecture. We'll harass her out of the place. British steel, new construction, but build things back beautifully. Christianises, make Birmingham the most beautiful place on earth. No more excuses. A civilisational project, long after I'm dead. So we'll say, not even grandkids, great-great-grandkids, not finished till then. The most beautiful testament to a British victory that gives credit to our ancestors as we pump into the stars and the Celts take over the next grassy planet that we happen to like. First one we see that's pretty is ours. Get fucked. I'm for Miles too. I'll claim it first. In terms of claiming for the British, I will get there first and stick a flag on it, or Junior will pick one. But yeah, so this is good because it helps my father's partners. This is a clear demand as part of proceedings that you probably should have engaged in. The old man carked it last year. Someone should be proactively discussing probate, given how he was a psycho. But we can sort that out later. I'm sure these things can be done amicably. Else he's come in, sit in my office, let me suck on the volcano, and once he's given my colleague a cup of tea, I shall give him his.